Välkommen alle sammen, as this week's elections in the EU brought a seemingly good victory for Europe. I don't know if it's actually going to solve the problems. I think they just invited a beast in who might bring some more problems and not do anything about the actual issue. Brexit taught us that. But anyway, even though my citizenship is actually dual Norwegian and British, I'm not officially EU, but these are issues that affect all of us. And since there is a lot of online chatter about this subject in our community, I had to do a video to clear up some of the history and the lies out there. What would the Vikings have thought about immigration? And would Scandinavia 1,000 years ago have voted right-wing if they were here with us today? This is not a political video or any video of opinion, it's just a history lesson, so we're not doomed to repeat the same mistakes of the past, because people on the far left and far right are focused on the completely wrong surface level issues, fighting against each other, and they don't see what the real problem is. But with a little history lesson from the Viking Age, we might be able to figure some things out. So, the Vikings were just a small part of the Scandinavian population during the time. The word Viking refers to the elite upper class of warriors during the late Iron Age that engaged in raids. They were not the poor farmers or peasants. The Vikings were the kind of highest class of society. The peasants, farmers, and slaves, they are the ones who would have generally stayed at home, and the upper warrior class would have been the ones going out on the Viking raids and traveling and trading. And sorry to disappoint a lot of you, as many of the biggest Viking fans mistakenly believe, the Vikings would not have been some local, intellectually challenged hillbillies from a small Norwegian village who drank Norwegian beer and worked in a Norwegian factory and watched Norwegian football and ate shitty Norwegian pizza, and they'd never been out of the country other than a beer trip to Sweden. That's about as Scandinavian as it gets these days, but no. The real Vikings, they were travelers. They were international men of mystery. They had all the interest in other cultures. They had the highest motivations to travel as many places as they could, and they had respect for all the people they met along the way, to a certain degree, we should say. We know this from the saga literature, primary and secondary sources telling about the Vikings making great friends with English kings, French nobles, Eastern European royalty, where they were even invited to rule, even travels to the Mediterranean, Africa, Constantinople, where they served in the Byzantine Emperor's highest guard and made great friends with the people there. In addition, we have all these archaeological finds, not just from the Viking Age, but going back through the migration period and even to the Bronze Age Scandinavia. Countless artifacts from all over the known world as far as East Asia. They just love to trade and bring little parts of the world home with them. There are also burials of the highest class people in Scandinavia during the Viking Age, with DNA coming from all over. They didn't even mind immigration to Scandinavia at the time, because some of their kings took foreign women as wives. Although it's nowhere near as much, as the mainstream scholars lie about this subject and expect us to believe, the Vikings did tolerate some immigration. Point is that they had interest and respect for foreign cultures. I have read every single source multiple times, and I can honestly say I can't think of a single example of what I would call racism from any Vikings in there. As a matter of fact, the only culture that the Vikings were a bit weary of was Christianity, which I find ironic since many of these modern nationalist type people are so adamant about Christianity being the religion and savior of Europe, but at the same time, they don't like brown things coming into their lands from the Middle East with foreign ideologies and worldviews being forced upon your people. What in the hell do you think Christianity was? I have no problems with Christianity today, or most Christians. They are great people in this millennium at least, maybe not 1,000, 2,000 years ago. All I would say that if those of you watching are proud of the true native Europe and your honorable ancestors, I would at least invite you to spend a little bit of time looking into their native religion. Because again, Just like most of you don't appreciate the ruling powers today, spreading lies and propaganda, this is exactly what was done with our native religion for 2,000 years now. Most of you have believed all the lies that were told to you about your ancestors and what they believed. All I invite you to do is explore the real history and primary sources, which is mainly what my channel is about if you are new here. That being said, the only foreign cultures who the Vikings actively fought against when it slithered its way into Scandinavia was the Catholic Church. They were peaceful at first, and the Vikings welcomed Christianity, but once certain leaders overstepped their bounds, once they started cutting down our sacred trees, burning down our temples, and building churches on top of them, once they started torturing and killing our people and forcing them to convert to Christianity, that's when the Vikings stood up and they had had enough. We welcome guests, and we still do today, until they push us too far, and that's when we fight back. There is nothing wrong with this, there is nothing racist about that. This has happened multiple times throughout history, multiple times in the Viking Age, and they fought off Christian forces every single time. Christianity didn't even get a foothold in our lands until our treacherous leaders planted it from the inside and made it no longer possible to fight off. Does any of that sound familiar? So, guys, the point of the video is to show that foreign cultures are not the enemy. Immigration is a natural human evolution, and we can't be mad at humans for migrating, because we too have had many times in history where we migrated, and we will have many of these times again. The Viking Age was one of these periods where Scandinavians were forced to migrate a lot outside of the country, and we were exactly not the most upstanding citizens in many places we traveled either. The migration period was another time where the Germanic tribes migrated like wildfire, and they were not the most polite citizens either when they started invading Rome and setting up the Longobardic kingdom, or when the Germanic peoples, the Goths, settled the east of Europe and Spain and established rule there. We too have migrated, as has every other human culture in history, and it's completely natural. Here is the difference to today. In ancient times, if anyone wanted to migrate, they had to struggle through it. It was a grueling, life-risking journey to make it into a new place to settle. It was incredible hard work to set up a home and build a farm and provide food for ourselves. And oftentimes it was a deadly fight with the natives to earn the right to establish ourselves in their new homeland, and we did it all by ourselves. Well, that doesn't sound like what's happening today, does it? Migrants don't have a grueling journey that they have to do by themselves. No, they get help from NGOs and others on their journey, and they get sent in boats with places to camp, and they're even given prepaid debit cards to help them along the way. They don't have to do grueling work to build a home for themselves, build a farm to feed themselves. No, our tax money goes to supporting them in every possible way once they get to the new land. They don't even have to fight the natives for their right to be there like our ancestors did when they migrated. No, the natives today, they try to make a stand for their homeland, and they get called Nazis, and then our taxpayer money goes to the puppet police to arrest them for hate speech. All for just asking some simple questions like the natives would want to know. Who are we letting into our lands? What are the crime rates of these new guests? Shouldn't we make sure our people are taken care of before we start worrying about the rest of the world? Should we slow things down a little when we figure all of this out? Simple, logical questions that the natives will get called Nazis for asking. Has anyone maybe thought to ask others about how they felt about this? How about the women who no longer feel safe to walk home at night in Europe? How about the kids who get bullied at school for being natives of their own country? Has anyone asked them how they feel about it? No. We ignored them for decades now and called them racist, and that's why most of Europe has gotten pissed off by now, and they see no other choice but to vote far right wing. Even though they risk losing their jobs, making them not able to feed their family, and maybe even be imprisoned for something as innocent as singing a song from 25 years ago. I wonder if our Viking ancestors would have thought all this was okay. I wonder if anyone at any point in history with a functioning brain would think that was okay. No, I don't think so, but that's just me. Let me know what you guys think. This is not an anti-immigration video again. This is a pro-immigration video. This is a natural human function. All people migrate. We can't be mad at the migrants coming to search for a better life, because we have done that before also. This is not a question about one race or religion or culture against another. No, we can all have respect and admiration for other cultures and work together. We can trade, thrive, and live in peace. The enemy is not other cultures. The enemies are the ones in power, the corporate interests in the pockets of our treacherous politicians on the left and the right, the billionaires and the global organizations who are actively doing everything they can to ruin our countries and native cultures into the ground. And sorry guys, no amount of voting is going to save you. Left, right, conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, none of them have the people's best interests at heart. It's our job to preserve our own culture and the safety of our brothers and sisters in our homelands, and we can do this every single day in the communities and environments that we create. I think one of the ways to do that is going back to our native religion. If you agree and you're interested in learning more, you can follow. But either way, I wish everyone the best. Love for all our family and homelands, every honorable person with a reasonable mind, no matter where you come from in the world. And that's all I have to say about that, along with the history lesson. But that's all for today. Vi ses nästa gång.